Welcome, chat. Welcome back, man. Live with another Little Lions latest episode, man. This is going to be a good one. We'll be kind of short and sweet here. We'll be in and out, but we got the first practice report of the week, even though some of it's walkthrough. I know for the Rams, it was officially listed as walkthrough, but for the Lions, they got some extended time. I don't even think it was walkthrough for the Lions. I think it was like a normal practice, but we got that to dive into. Also, talk a little bit about this playoff picture, where we're sitting at. All right, I did this mainly yesterday, so I got to refresh myself when we're doing this live, but just kind of like the straightforward path to getting into the playoff, what it looks like. Also, I didn't know there was actually percentages that were posted. I always hear people talking about like, hey, man, right now this is the percentage to make it. I didn't know where to find it. I found it. It's on NFL. It's on NFL.com. So right now it says the percent is 54% with a loss that drops to 44%. And then that's projecting also, I think, what's going to happen this weekend, I guess. But if you win, it's 75%. And I don't know how that moves it though, because is that like assuming like, hey man, you beat the Rams, you're probably winning every game? Because like, yeah, if we went out, we got a good shot. So I don't know how that works exactly. But anyways, we're gonna get to that practice report. Not a ton to touch on there. I would say some positives for us, and then also we got to talk some players to watch. I just dropped it over on Bleacher Report, but I've watched more to this point of this Rams team to the point where I could probably already do that preview video. You know what I mean? I feel pretty good about what we're gonna see, and I actually came to a part conclusion on what I think we should look like defensively to give ourselves a good shot here. So we're going to get into all of that. Mac, I see. What's up, Mac? Super Sailor Outlaw Georgia iShack. Hold up. What is that a picture of? Okay, that's a lot. There's a lot going on there. How you doing? Brandy Coffee's here. I'm fired up. Let's get into this. Let's do this. Let's start with the practice report. All right, because that's a little bit more boring, I think. I want to start there first. For the Rams side, I'm going to throw it on the screen, but for the Rams side, it's really just Devontae Adams did not practice today. Didn't really see much more than that. Then I guess he's just not practicing. Or yesterday, it's not today. We'll get today's a little bit later. But yesterday did not practice. So we have that. I'm just gonna pull it up through here. This. It doesn't look. You know what? Hold up. Let me get the better one. This one doesn't look great. Let's go to the Rams official website. Now it looks legit. Okay. Bam. This is what we're looking at. The line is actually smaller than usual. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. I'm keeping my eye on the Byron Young one because he wasn't listed with anything, but maybe there's something there. I don't know. Byron Young is actually one of our players to watch. We'll talk about him. Darius Williams, maybe Darius Williams coming back. I mean, it would help him. They're not great at cornerback. They're not bad at cornerback, but I don't think they're great there. That would help a lot. And then Tutu Atwell. On the Lions side, I actually think it's very positive. I mean, it's kind of hard because it's so early, like illness. Usually that works out. Hopefully it does for Alex Branch. He's out for the season. He had surgery, 8 to 12 months. It's kind of the early stuff there, but they said the surgery went well. And then Taylor Decker, no practice. So this is where we're at. But this has kind of been a Decker thing all year, is not really practicing. So I'm not really worried about this. I would just say it's a lot of good. KO'd practicing again. Thomas Harper's practicing. Now he's got to get through concussion protocol, but 10 days, hopefully. And then Kirby Joseph limited. Now this popped up a little bit last week and he still didn't go. But I get the feeling Kirby's going to go this weekend. I just get that sense he's going to be back. And then Christian Mahogany practicing as well. Now, the way that it was talked about didn't make it sound like Mahogany was going to play this weekend. It was like at some point this season they're optimistic to get him back because he's just getting back to practice. So even though he's limited, I don't expect him to play this weekend. If he did, I think it'd be shocking. But that would say that he's on a path to playing at some point because we have 4 games left. So at some point this dude should play. And yes, Shane Zylstra, that's a huge one. They're hoping to get him to the game, Dan said. If they get Shane Zylstra back, it's actually massive for this opponent because similar to what we saw last week, with Dallas and a lot of their matching zone coverage, you're going to get that against the Rams. But it's not one of my players to watch, but it's a key to potentially attacking this team and getting some vertical looks is actually going to go through that tight end position. The way that they match personnel, they're typically leaning a little bit lighter. But if you do go 2 tight ends, I've seen a lot of times that's when they do go base. So it also gives you an opportunity to work on that. But specifically, say you spread this defense out, their slot players are the guys that are going to carry routes vertically in zone. So they're going to take those away. But on the flip side, their linebackers will not typically carry vertical routes in zone. So it does open up if you have a guy like Shane that can get matched up on a linebacker if they're playing some zone. That's where vertical shots can open up. I'll put that in the preview. I have a good play for that I'll show you. I don't have it. I don't want to show plays on this one. But just to talk through it real quick, that could be huge. That could be big to get him back. And maybe they got to find a way with Gibbs to make that work. It'll be interesting to see how they play us. I'm be very curious because they're going to know we want to run the football. And over the last 2 weeks, the Rams have played teams differently. Like they played Carolina much more aggressively. It felt like in terms of like, okay, we are taking away this run game from them versus last week where they played the Cardinals and didn't feel as much as that. It felt a little bit like, all right, we're going to keep some more speed on the field. So you felt 2 different approaches to it. So we'll see how they adjust for us. 2 back sets will be the most interesting to see how they play that because you would think that you would go pretty heavy to deal with our two backs, but their D line's playing so well. I don't know if they will. But anyways, a lot of positives. Khalif might be back. There's a lot going on. A lot of good going on here. Must watch game. It is a must watch game. I'm with you on that one. It is a must watch game. All right. So with that, let's keep it moving. Like I said, I think Kirby's going to play this weekend. We'll see how that shakes out. I don't know. We'll go to players to watch secondly. I want to start with this playoff picture look because this will probably take the longest to get through. And I'm not talking through like every scenario. This is just kind of what I've looked at so far. But again, I did this yesterday, so some of this I'm gonna have to refresh myself. If we go through it. We're gonna get through it though. And if y'all are seeing something that I'm not seeing, let me know. Okay, I don't want to miss out. NFL playoff picture. I pulled up the simulator here. And we know the best path is always winning out. That's the best way to do it. I never like doing that though, because it puts so much pressure on the team to win out. But yeah, the best path is clearly, hey, win out. But the first one I want to start off with this. This one kind of excites me a little bit. And now I only put a couple teams in here, so we'll have to fill the rest out. But just this idea. The Lions right now, their clearest path to just getting a spot is the fact that they play the Bears. And as long as they're within a game of the Bears, a game at Chicago would be for a playoff spot. Essentially, it's likely going to be for a wild card spot. So, or unless they go win the division, then it's not. So in that case, that wouldn't help us. Actually, that's why people are rooting for the Packers. But let's just take the idea of Bears aren't going to win the division, and it would come down to, hey, Lions, as long as you're within a game of the Bears by that last game, you're going to play for a shot to get in the playoffs. Okay, that's cool. But what about this scenario? Right, this is what I'm thinking about. What if the Lions lost to Chicago at Chicago? Because outside of the Rams game, I think that's clearly the best opponent we have left. And condition-wise, that actually could be even more difficult for the Lions. We'll see, but it could be because the run game hasn't been consistently dominant this year. And the Bears right now, they look really good up front. They look great on the offensive line. That thing has clicked. So what if they lost to the Bears? How could they still get in? This is what intrigues me. So start week 15. It starts this week. You got to win this game if that's the case, right? So like I think at worst, realistically, you probably need to win 3 of these last 4. Now, I think that's doable. But it's this week and it's Chicago that are the 2 toughest in my eyes. If that's why I think the odds go up so much. If you beat the Rams, you're going to feel great about your chances to find some path in. So let's assume we beat the Rams. On the Bears side, they're going to beat the Browns, right? We know that's going to happen here. I don't know how this one's going to play out. I kind of get the sense Green Bay is going to win. I'm not rooting for them, but I kind of get the sense to win. So we'll just move that forward. Week 16, though, we beat the Steelers. Okay, cool. Bears, let's say they lose to the Packers. Now, this opens up the path to still get to winning the division. Because if they were to split like this, now the Packers would have 4 losses, but I think the only realistic shot of winning this division is probably running the table. Like, I don't really think it's any bit kind of like going to happen of like, hey, man, you didn't run the table and you won the North. Probably not going to happen. If you do go 12-5, there's a real shot. There's a real shot for them to win the NFC North, and it would start coming back to the split. But let's say the Packers handle business. They beat them again. And then we get to week 17, and here, let's say the Bears lose. Now, these I think are somewhat on the table. It's on the table. They lose to the Packers again. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's on the table. And I actually think a tie would help us. I think in a lot of ways a tie would help. It would help us specifically, I think, for a divisional race here because – and we'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. San Francisco and Green Bay, that's very realistic. They could drop both of those games. At San Fran, home against Green Bay, we'll see. But they could drop both those. We handle business again. Where are the Packers at here? Let me find it. Packers, Ravens. I think they'll beat the Ravens. Like, it's the Ravens, so maybe. And again, this is kind of where the path opens up where it's like, well, shoot, could the Packers lose the Ravens? Could they also split with the Bears? And now we can open up a potential here to getting in where it's like, hey, now we're playing for the division instead of playing for a wild card spot. Like, it's possible. But I'd probably take the Packers at this spot. And now if this were the case and you were to lose to the Bears, hold up, let me go back. Where are the Lions at? Okay, wait, I forgot the Bears. I forgot the Bears game. Yeah, so the Bears lose to San Francisco. Bears then lose to the Packers, and we get to week 18, you could still afford a loss to the Bears, split in the division, and the reason you would still get the nod is because of trying to think, it's not coming to my mind. The reason you would still get the nod is because of NFC record. I believe that's the separator right now, because right now I believe the Bears are 6-3 in the NFC. So if they were to lose those 2, they'd be sitting at 6-5. The Lions have 5 wins right now in the NFC. And if they handle business against the Rams and Minnesota, that gives them 7 wins in the NFC. So it would put us in a spot where we could still jump in without even actually beating the Bears. So it actually works out. Yeah, tiebreakers. There you go. It actually does work out. There's a path to this happening. That's the thing I wanted to start with because that could be the most difficult. Are you done with roundtable? No, no one's asked. I'm not done with the roundtable. Not done with the roundtable. It's just scheduling wise. It's unfortunate right now for me. Like, I'm going to be back on there next week. We'll see. It's kind of up in the air. After that, I'll be back on. It's just a little bit difficult with where my schedule's at right now. Wednesdays are very difficult for me to make right now. Unfortunately, it just did not line up well. So we're working for it. I'll be back on there soon. But right now it's been kind of hard to make it happen. I haven't been able to make it happen, just to be honest with you. Hey Dan, if the Bears and Packers both lose this weekend, Lions win, are they the favorite to win the North? So you're saying if the Bears lose to the Browns? Yeah, I think if the Bears lose to the Browns, I don't think this one would maybe make you the favorite because I think there's a belief that the Packers could definitely lose that game, and you would still then need the Packers would have to drop somewhere. Like, so maybe so let's say the Bears beat the Packers, maybe something like that could come into play. And then, I mean, at that point, you're still probably having to run the table, if we're being honest with you, because then you'd have to beat the Bears at the end of the season to jump them. So then it puts you in that spot. And then you can see you still get the 2 seed. I don't know. I wouldn't think they would be the favorites, but I think their odds would be insanely high to make the playoffs if the Bears were to lose to the Browns. If they were to lose to the Browns, knowing that they have Green Bay, San Fran, and us coming up, if they drop to the Browns, they would have 5 losses, just like us. And we'd already have I think we'd jump them immediately, would we not? Yeah, we jumped them right away. If we won this week and they lose, we'd already would have taken their spot, right? So I guess I could just reset from there. Bam. We're in their spot already. So yeah, I think I don't think you'd be a favorite to win the division though, because the Packers, because they swept us. Now, I guess this is where the interesting thing comes in. So if we said they lost of a potential tie, playing if they potentially tied again, I don't know if that happened. I think it could open the door for us a little bit here. If there was a tie for us to kind of jump in. I hope this doesn't happen, but whatever. We'll see how that goes. Anything I want to make sure I didn't miss out on anything here. So what we know is the Lions have Rams, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and they end with Chicago. 3 of those 4 are on the road. The only one that's home is Pittsburgh, which I actually think is a great one to get at home. I mean, I'd rather have Chicago at home, but I'll take that. And then Minnesota is going to be like, I have no concerns about that one, to be honest with you. That's no disrespect for Minnesota. They can play well. It's just like weather-wise, stuff like that. No issue with it. If they lose to the Bears, I don't know. The Bears are good. Like, the Bears are good, and they have a great offensive line. I won't look at it that way. I'll take it any way we can get it. If we win 3 last 4, lose the Bears, we get in, I'll take it because that means we beat the Rams. You know what I mean? So, like, based on that alone, I feel like that team's deserving. Now, that would still probably come back to the issue of, okay, well, how consistent are you? That's questionable at that point. But, like, for me, if you just find a way in, I'm probably going to feel we're pretty deserving because very likely to get into this playoff spot, you're going to have to beat either the Rams or Bears. You may have to beat both. That'll really give you a good shot. But you're going to have to beat one of those 2 teams, which will both be considered playoff teams. And there's a chance that the Rams will still make it regardless if we beat them or not. I mean, the Rams could fall out of this, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Rams do have a tough schedule, though, coming up, which is the weird part. Yeah, so if we beat the Rams then have Seattle. If they were to drop that one, you can see like they're actually, their path becomes a little bit trickier. They'll win against Atlanta, and then they finish with who's that last one? The Cardinals. They'll probably win that one too. They're going to get in either way. I'm going to be honest. They'll get in either way. But then, if we beat Chicago, you know what I mean? Like, maybe, we jump them because, hey, we got that tiebreaker. You know what I'm saying? Viking defense gave our line fits. They did. And at that time, like, here's the thing. We've struggled with that all year because of the movement. We struggled with movement up front. And I felt really good about the path they got on last week. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, that didn't mean it was great. Didn't mean Miles Frazier didn't get cooked. He did. We talked about it. But that said, I felt much better about the assignments last week. They felt way, way cleaner. I mean, we can go 2 weeks ago. We got cooked by Green Bay. Green Bay gave us the same exact problem. Every outside run was blown up by Cooper. Stuff on the inside wasn't as clean. But I will say, I feel like last week, the assignments came back. They were much cleaner. Tate played a good game. Tate's actually been on a roll, I think, recently, especially as a run blocker, which gives me a lot of optimism because I feel like we've found you've gotten a pretty consistent play from rookie. About as consistent as you can get from a second-round rookie. I think we've gotten to that point with him. And Graham Glasgow settles stuff for us. So you're still going to have issues. You're still going to have losses. It shouldn't be to that level. And if you remember in that game, it was so much of, it was just kind of simply as, hey, first off, one issue that has been a consistent issue, we got to pick up better in pass pro, specifically our running backs. Because even when Monty's out, like, it's just not consistent enough. But that approach, if you don't have a better plan for that, that's on you. Like, there's no way you don't have a better plan for that next time around. You have to have a better plan for that because I'm the Vikings. I'm doing the exact same thing. I'll just throw that out there. Okay, anyways, I think that's what we're looking at for the playoffs. So everything's still in front of them, basically. Run the table, you're probably getting in. At what spot, who knows? The unfortunate part is you could run the table and not get the division. I think that's very in play because the Packers do have their 9 wins, and because they could beat the Bears again, and because they swept us. It's kind of simply put as that. But, like, everything's in front of them from just making the playoffs. I still feel pretty good about it. Like I said, if they beat the Rams this weekend, I'm going to feel great about their chances to get in. because then we can really start playing that game where it's like, because like right now, I feel like you're not in the mode of like, oh man, we're really focused on what other teams are doing. Like I don't feel there yet because like to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I expect the Bears to win this weekend. I expect the Packers to win this weekend. So for me, I don't really feel like I'm in that spot yet with this team where it's like I'm open for these other things because I'm kind of just looking at it as like, they're going to win their games. We got to win ours to keep pace. Like that's kind of where I'm at. And then you got a team like the Niners where the Niners have some tricky ones too, because it's just kind of the flip side of what we've talked about here. The problem with the Niners is, again, though, they have such a good NFC record. We're not going to get that. We're probably going to have to outright jump them because I think they already have 8 wins in the NFC. I think the most we can get to is 7. So we'd have to outright jump them. They could lose to the Bears. They could also lose to the Colts. I know the Colts have been struggling a bit. They could lose to Seattle. There's a pass where they fall apart, but it's still going to take the flip side of us handling business because now all of a sudden you're just propping up the Chicago Bears. So, and then you still have to beat the Bears then at that point because then you're adding 2 more wins to the Bears, which doesn't put you in a good spot if you lose to them. Anyways. All right. Anyways, let's continue. Let's go to players to watch here because we got some things that we need to talk about. Let me pull the graphic up. We could talk about a lot here too, like way more than what I just put on this. Green Bay and Denver could be good for us. I hope so, man. I hope so. And it's like if they were to lose to Denver, right? Where's that? Let me get that back on the screen. If they were to lose to Denver, which they're not, I think they're at Denver's underdogs in that game. If they were to lose to Denver, they'd be at 4 losses. Or 4 losses. They'd be 9-4-1. With then the remaining schedule would be Chicago, Baltimore, Minnesota. You're still rooting for probably upsets there because if they were to lose to Denver and then Chicago could go get the win, that could give you a shot. I would say here. Let's do that one more. Let's do one more. I want to talk to that one actually. I think that's interesting. Dose, I was watching Phil Miles Frazier and Tristan Cologne's last game. They both did such a great job. Who should we play? Yeah, I thought Frazier struggled big time, but I liked him much better in the run game. I would play Cologne. And I wouldn't hate if they tried to rotate him still a little bit. I wouldn't hate it, but I would lean Cologne. Like if you're just telling me who's the best right now, I would lean Cologne. I wouldn't hate rotating him because I do think for Frazier, it's just like it's NFL speed and he's not practicing. So, I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like we're in such a spot right now, and then Dan Campbell sounded kind of desperate when he said it, like where we're at. I mean, Kode's coming back. So here's my guess. Let me say this. If Kode is available to play, I wouldn't be shocked that they start Kode again and they just go back to that path. I know like some of us would kind of hate seeing it. Maybe there'd be a rotation where they'd get Frazier still some looks there over Cologne, but I think Kode would become their starter again. I wouldn't maybe love it, but based on just based alone on what Campbell said about that position and how they're like, hey man, we had to see it. We had to give him some looks. It makes me believe that if Kode's available, he's going to go back to starting. Now let's assume he's not available. I think they'll go Cologne. And then maybe we see kind of we got last week where it was like a couple drives, we'll rotate him in. But I definitely don't see him being the full-time starter. I actually think it's more likely he doesn't play at all this week than him rotating. I think it's more likely that he just doesn't play at all this weekend. And I don't take joy in saying that. I'm a big Miles Frazier guy. I just think he's in a tough spot. It's like so fast to throw him in there. It's tough. I like Cologne too. And I think there's an argument to be made to go to Cologne. But again, just based on what Dan said, like it does sound like if Kode was back, that they would just go back to that path. And they have a build up confidence with him too. So I guess I get it. Anyways, real quick, let's go to this. And my man said you got to win out. You don't got to win out. We just if you just missed it, we did a scenario like there's a real path to getting. I think 3 wins. You got to feel like you have an above average shot to get in the playoffs some way if you can win 3 games. I feel like that because either again you're beating Chicago or you're beating the Rams. I think it might be a little bit more tricky. Like, okay, let's do it this way. So let's say we lose to the Rams this weekend. And again, now they're saying 44% chance. And then we run the table from there. Because I think 3 wins, it's not a lock by any means, but you're in play. And you should be with 11 wins. You should be in play. And that Chicago win will become huge. But then obviously you're looking for other help. Chicago's going to win this game. Let's say Green Bay handles business, because I think they will. This game's going to matter a lot because at this point, it feels like you would then not even be rooting for. You wouldn't even feel like you're rooting for division anymore. You're probably just rooting for getting into the playoffs, which I kind of hate throwing that out the window too. I mean, if San Fran could get the job done, then you could maybe. What would this put them at? Let's say they split. Yeah. So then you could keep your hopes alive, right? Because then you could still. So I mean, look, there's even another path to this. You lost to the Rams, and you still got a legit path here. You would then need an upset here, though, which I don't think would happen. But maybe it happens. I don't know. I don't think that would happen. And then Green Bay's probably beat Minnesota anyway. Yeah, there's too many upsets that you would need there. Yeah, if Green Bay beats Chicago, we might as well just not even think about the division anymore, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like that's probably where we're at. If Green Bay beats Chicago, all right, we probably ain't winning the division. Because then you're gonna need something that's like very unlikely, and this is including a Baltimore loss. You would need them to lose to Denver. I guess that's more likely. That could happen, but I don't see them losing. I don't see them losing to Denver and Baltimore. It's possible. I mean, shoot, Baltimore get their act together, maybe, but I don't know. I don't. The point is, you can get there with 3, but you gotta win the right 3. Like you got if one of those 4 have to come against Chicago, and I guess it would guarantee that. Like it has to come against Chicago or the Rams. Like you gotta get one of those, and then you would have to assume that you're gonna win the other 2. Um, yeah, I mean it is whack, but hey, that's the NFL, man. But again, like that's why I think if you can handle business this week, I think you're taking a lot of the energy out of rooting on others to lose. Because I really do think like you handle business this weekend, and we just go down the path of what's expected. And I'm not even throwing crazy upsets here. Say the Packers win. Say the Packers win. Like, okay, you still have a very legitimate path to get there, even without beating the Bears in the final game of the season. And I don't think any of this is crazy. I mean, maybe San Fran doesn't get Chicago, and that would throw you off a bit, and then it'd put you in a must-win scenario against the Bears again. But you would take anything to get that right now. I think you would be very excited to know that you had a game for all the marbles at the end because, like, yeah, like even in this spot, you're still getting in above them. But anyways, I'll leave that there. We'll leave that there. We can revisit that. I think it'll make more sense to revisit that like a week from now. See what happens this week. See if we handle business. Because again, if we don't, it doesn't take us out of anything necessarily. I think we're still kind of in the same spot, but you do become a little bit more reliant on others. And then at that point, like if we don't win our last 3, we're just not getting in. All right, let's go to the players to watch though. Did you see Stafford coughing during a press conference? I'm sure he's got the flu. Fans were talking about it. I didn't see that. Knowing Stafford, I don't think a flu would keep him out. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it might throw him off a bit. That guy, man. I don't know. I didn't see that though. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. I didn't know that. What happens if the Bears win the same amount of games we do? We meet week 18. Is it win and get in? If we have the same amount of wins, we meet week 18. No, so like yeah, so okay. Hopefully that made sense then. Not necessarily, right? Because it would come back to tiebreakers, and in that case, if the Bears were to lose their NFC North games or the NFC games, which is Green Bay, which would drop them to 6-4, which is San Francisco, which would put them at 6-5. The Lions are 5-4 right now. So if the Lions were to beat Minnesota, they go to 6-4. And if they were to beat the Rams this weekend, they go to 7-4. So you wouldn't even necessarily need that win over the Bears at that point to even get in. You just have to be in a spot where you're there. As long as we're within a game, though, of the Bears, then you're very likely playing for a playoff spot against the Bears. You know what I mean? It's like as long as we stay within reach of them, and right now we're a game back, whether that's they win their next 3, we win our next 3 too. Like as long as we're within a game, a win puts us in. A win, or I don't even say that. A win just jumps them because we'd have the tiebreaker, the first tiebreaker, which is head to head. I want to know how close you think this game's going to be. I think this is going to be challenging. I'm going to say that. Okay, I don't really have a good score yet. Like I'm going to be honest. I could throw some out there. I don't have a good one yet. But here's what I came up for players to watch. But I think this is good to talk through this a little bit. Let me grab my notes here. Actually, it's on a different page. Let me pull up a different page for my notes. But let's talk through it. So first off, I put Braden Fisk. There's been a lot of hype given to this defensive line, rightfully so. It's been great this season. It's really, I think, what's made them so tough. Like, and I guess this kind of goes off topic. The Rams O-line is incredible. I'm going to show you some really stats that I came up with for this team. And this is not season-long stats. These are just the runs that I charted. So I don't know what they're going to look like season-long. But to this point, just the runs that I've went through, it's insane how well they run the football. I mean, it's like when you think of the Lions at their best when they would just kind of run over people, that's what it feels like when you watch this Rams offense. It just feels like they run over people whenever they want to. It doesn't feel like they really have any weaknesses on the O-line. And it's like there's never really in third down or in a bad spot because they'll just run the football. It doesn't matter. They're just going to run the football, and they're that good at it. So, like, if I go to this, like, here would be one of my – and this is going to be hard to read, but, like, here would be one of my early ones, right? So, if you look at the bottom, rushing yards on these plays, it's insane how well they run the football. Dual runs, 8, 4, 6, 14, 4, 7, 14, 6, 18, 1, 7, 9, 2, 13, 18, 2-yard touchdown, 6 yards, 2-yard, 2-yard touchdown. Everything is good. There's no negatives listed on there. Everything's a positive. They're similar to Dallas, I think, in the sense that they're downhill just like Dallas. They're a very heavy inside double team team, but they'll go a little more stretch run. Both of their backs fit perfectly. Blake Corum's got a lot more juice. He kind of looks like Michigan Blake Corum, right? He's popped some runs for this team, not like 60 yards from what I've seen, but like 15. He gets outside the tackles and bam, he's popping 15. They create, there's no question in my mind, this has the offensive line that the Rams have create more movement than any team I've watched. Feels like by a mile. More than Philly. Like they create way more movement up front than anybody I've watched. There's not much complex with them. They just push everybody backwards. It's crazy. They're fantastic on the O-line. Like Kevin Dotson is an absolute animal at right guard. And then at left guard, Avila has been great. Coleman Shelton, a little bit questionable at times, but he fits. He runs really well. And both tackle positions are legit. Like they don't have weaknesses up front. So you have that to deal with. And that's where, you watch some of these other teams and you're hoping that your investments that the Lions have made, because I saw someone bring up Aleem earlier, those guys play to that. Like they have to. This has to be career game for these dudes. I mean, Aleem McNeil's got to be better than he's been up to this point. And here's one thing I threw out there that I would keep an eye on. Aleem McNeil might play some DN again in this game. I mean, I thought Davenport brought some real pop to the run game for us. It wouldn't shock me if they put Aleem McNeil back at DN a little bit. Because for them, if they put him on the interior and he's getting bullied at the point of attack, we're going to fall into the same trap everybody else has. We don't want that to be the case. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Lions said, hey, man, look, if we're not going to be blitzing everybody to stop the run, which is already dangerous in its own, we're going to have to be heavy. We got to be really heavy up front. So I would put Aleem McNeil back at DN, see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, he just may not get a lot of snaps. Unless he's handling business, you just might not get a lot of snaps in this game, right? I would put him back at DN, give him looks there, and I would lean on DJ Reader, Roy Lopez, Tyleek Williams, more Tyleek in this game, and just focus on like, we're putting 3 big bodies out there almost every down. Unless we know they're passing, which they rarely get into those spots anyway, we're going to be very heavy up front. So that's the first thing I would keep an eye on because they push everybody around. And the thing is, I haven't been able to see occasions where they're a drop back passing team. They're rarely ever a drop back passing team. And as soon as they're not drop pass, as soon as they go play action, Stafford, all that no look stuff that people kind of, I've talked about this week of like, him looking off guys, it's all play action stuff. It's all that, like, because it's all on time. The pocket's easy for him. There's no pressure. It's hard to get pressure against these guys when that's the case. And all of a sudden, you're looking at it as like, he's just looking guys off. He's waiting for windows, and he's firing it. And you're like, this is a problem. So I'm with what my man said, but it's like, it's so much, like, it's hard to come up with a great plan, I think, against these guys. Outside of, I just truly do believe Aleem McNeil's got to play some D-end. You got to get as heavy as you can up front. You may have to lose some pass rush because of that, unfortunately, but Aleem should bring that. If he handles business at DN, he should bring that. I'm just worried about him on the stretch runs. The duo stuff, he'll be fine. Because you have to slow it down to some extent. You have to some degree. If they're just, whenever they feel like they're in trouble a bit and they just can run the ball for 7 yards, we're cooked. And here's the crazy thing. Carolina, who just beat them 2 weeks ago, they beat them having an interception. The Rams scored 28 points in that game through an interception in the end zone off a tip pass. And they also threw a pick 6. Both of them like in the second quarter. And they scored 28. It's like, hey, this team, man, like, I hope we get some turnovers too, but my goodness, bro, we got to, like, you got to slow them down just somewhat. We got to, those guys need to be dogs. I think Reader's been on the right path. Tyleek's been playing good ball. There is not a better test for those guys to show up against people movers up front. Absolute dogs up front. And it fires me up. Yeah, and that's the thing with Aleem too. It's like, I would just play him at DN. And if it's not going well, I'd play him less snaps. You know what I mean? There's no issue with that. It's fine. It's where we're at for this game. Just do that. Meek on Devontae, Rocky Sin on Puka. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think what's going to happen is because Puka moves a lot. I don't know what the percentages are. Puka plays a lot in the slot too. It wouldn't surprise me if he played a good amount of zone in this game either. But that being said, I think because of how much he plays in the slot, I think he's going to see some Rocky Sin. I think he's going to see some Meek. I think he's going to see both. And I think DJ Reed goes right to Devontae. But the thing with that too is DJ Reed has to be much more patient. It's a great game for him to have a bad game because last week he was way too declarative. Like he was jumping things and getting himself in bad spots. Can't do that against these dudes. You do that, Devontae's torching you. Slow that down a little bit. Give yourself a chance. And also on broken plays, Reed gave up some stuff. He didn't get back into play and make a play on the ball. He needs to be big time. He's on one of our players to watch here. I'll actually throw him back on the screen. I watched the first quarter of Rams against Arizona. The Rams were getting 10 yards per carry. And a scary thing about that game looked not great for me. Like in the sense of like watching it, I was like, okay, the Cardinals have a little something going here. And they were that good. It was like, hey man, the Cardinals are kind of giving them some, But it was mainly because they just kept scoring. Like they were responding early and then they stopped responding, and the Rams just kept scoring touchdowns. Like, all right, this thing's over. I got to it was like I think it was 14-10 at one point. Maybe it was 14-14. And then it was like, all right, now it's like, okay, now it's 28-35. And they just kept scoring. Like, all right, this thing's over. So yeah, dude, it's a handful. But I start with their defensive line because it does come down to the trenches. But I start here first because the run defense is really good too. Like I can show you the stats I have for that too. There's not a lot of rushing success I've been able to find against these guys. And I think the biggest thing I point to there is teams struggle so much to get to their linebackers. Landman and Spates look fantastic. Most people have no idea who these guys are, which is fair. Right? They're not high-round draft picks, but they work in this defense. They're physical. They don't really allow yards after contact from what I've seen, and they're going to live between the tackles. They don't put too much stress on them in coverage from what I've noticed as well because they match stuff with their secondary, but those guys don't get touched. They don't get touched, man. They get upfield, they don't get touched, and those guys make clean tackles, and they're limiting good runs to 3 yards. You have to find a way to get to their linebackers. You have to find a way to get a touch on their linebackers. If you can do that, we're gonna be in business. We got to find a way to touch those guys. Pause on that. We got to find a way to get to linebackers a little bit. But I focus on that D line first because I start with Braden Fisk. Braden Fisk to me is their weak spot on the defensive line as a starter. To me, you can push him around. And here, so no, we're not cooked. We're not cooked. We just gotta look. Hey, look. Here's the thing, right? We're playing a great team. You got to find the little advantages, and we got to be clean. I know Morton said that today. Like, hey, man, the pre-snap penalty's got to stop. Facts, it's got to stop. But you got to find the little things. Here's what I would nitpick here for him: Braden Fisk at defensive end. They're going to play some lighter personnel. They may play light personnel against 2 back sets against us. We may be able to get some light and packages to utilize that. But specifically, let's just talk about front versus front. Fisk to me is the guy that you can move around most consistently. Now, some of their backups too. They start to rotate. You can have success. If you can get them to rotate by longer drives, now you can create some movement, maybe. But Fisk's the guy that you can push around. And because he's playing like a 3-4 DN, essentially, and he's playing a little bit wider, your tackles can give support. Decker, Sewell, we can create movement from that spot. That's the first guy that I'd focus on. We can create movement from that spot to create some movement upfield. That's the guy that I would specifically go at. Now, if you can get them to start to rotate, you can go to like Ty Hamilton and nose tackle. You can run at Ty Hamilton a bit, right? They're not the biggest up front. They do lean a little bit more athleticism than just absolute massive human beings on the interior. But you have Poona Ford who's going to be in there first. And Poona Ford is pretty massive, especially for his height. He's short. But Poona Ford's been insane. And he's moved really well this year. He made a play last week or 2 weeks ago on a wide run where he and it's not Poona Ford. That's what I wouldn't expect. He's like running out to the sideline. He brings dude down to the line of scrimmage. I'm like, that's insane. That guy's like 330 pounds. I mean, he did it. I don't understand it. So we got to find like the small answers. We got to find the small answers, and that's one that I look to. The second thing, again, Byron Young, because pass rushing wise, Jared Verse is their best, right? Josiah Stewart's helped him a little bit. You know what Josiah Stewart is to this team? He's who's the guy that went to the Bills? He's that guy. The guy that went to the Bills. I can't think of his name. The guy that went to the Bills. He hasn't really played this year. He got suspended and stuff, but he was like dropping in coverage all the time. But he was like a big body. He's like, this is kind of weird. You got a DN dropping in coverage. That's kind of Josiah Stewart. Like, he's effective against the run. He brings a lot of juice to rusher. But I think what their superpower is, again, they're very athletic. They all move pretty well up front, but specifically stunts and games. Anytime they get you behind the chains, it's a lot of movement. It's a lot of that. We've had problems with that. We've been better recently. So I focus on Byron Young because I always feel like coming into the game, not Greg Russo. It's like he's a role player. He's not like a no. He's from the Rams. It'll come to. Well, let me look at it. Y'all remember when I say he's got like a very unique play style. Let me see. He might be out for the year though. He might be out for the year. Hold up. Let me see. Bills sign DN from Rams. Michael Hoyt. That's who it is. Michael Hoyt. Yeah, Michael Hoyt. That guy. That's kind of Josiah Stewart for me. He's Michael Hoyt. Now he's a little bit smaller, but he's kind of that, right? Michael Hoyt, it's basically what Josiah is for this team. And he was always a guy that they would move around a ton. I don't think he's actually playing this year. I think he's out for the year. But that's Byron Young for me. And he's always been that, like, in terms of like an underrated rusher. You start to focus on Verse, you focus on him, and then all of a sudden Decker's going to lose to Byron Young. It's like, oh, this guy. Now, that's where I'm looking at it. I said what I had to say about the linebackers. Kevin Dotson gave some love there. Biggest thing is I don't think he's the quickest lineman. If there's anything that could get some wins, and that's why I'd put Aleem at D end. If you can slant him inside, run some games against him potentially, maybe some slot blitzing, step him down, get him into the B gap, get him upfield. Maybe you create some negatives. I mean, if anything, if I'm putting Aleem at the end, like it's just play quick, bro. Get upfield, try to push these guys back, shut down the stretch runs, force some cutback lanes for us. If you can do that, we're good. And he could do that against, if there's an advantage, he could do that, I think, against a guy like Kevin Dotson. And then I talked about Blake Corum. For the Lions side, for what we mentioned earlier, I'm going DJ Reed because I think he's going to see a lot of Devontae Adams. And it's what you pay him for. So I'm optimistic on it, but his broken plays in the red zone, which is a problem. Here's the overall takeaway I had for this team. Get your hands up. That helps too, right? Get your hands up. Absolutely. That's how the pick happened. The takeaway that I had, and I'm not sure I'm going to fully be here by the time I do the preview, but right now, I don't think you need to be very complex with this Rams offense. Like, that doesn't mean don't change anything and run the same play over and over, because just like all good coach teams, they're going to start to expose it. But I do think that you don't need as much movement as I initially thought. I thought, like, oh, man, you want to have a ton of movement, very confusing, check down. It's not, I think, the most important recipe. Number one, they're probably not going to be in a lot of obvious pass downs. You get them in the 3rd and 12, yeah, go crazy. But, like, they're not playing in a lot of those downs anyway. So creating a lot of movement in the back end may not be that necessary. Maybe your movement goes from playing cover 3 to maybe at times we drop our corner and it's an invert. That would be as crazy I think you need to get. Outside of that, though, I don't think you need to get that crazy. The challenge they're going to have is they just have to be sound, because we've seen every week they can kind of adjust and they could do different zone things. Like last week, a little different, a little more too deep. I don't even know how much you need to do that against the Rams, right? Because of the way they play offensively. But say you sit in cover 3 a majority of the time, which I actually kind of like against these guys because Carolina did it well. They just played sound, meaning, and that's why I put the linebackers on here next, those guys got a ton of depth in zone coverage. They got a ton of depth. They would drop back. They would take away like a sail route. And even though the Rams knew what they were going to, and they were kind of drawing up beaters for it, zones always have windows, especially in the NFL. But, a lot of times, and I think this is more realistic at younger levels, because you, like, for example, I know in high school, you can run the same coverage over and over and you can get away with it. But because for the most part, you can always pick up on, okay, well, hold up. What if this happens? All right, well, so you got to see it. You got to get underneath it. It's like, all right, we can cover everything in high school. You can't do that in the NFL. But if you just have little wrinkles off of a very basic, I think, type of game plan, you're going to have enough. Like, for example, there was a play in this game. They were running cover 3 like over and over in the red zone. Carolina was. Rams came out 3-by-1. As soon as they did that, they got out of it. As soon as they did that, I think they went cover 2, I think it was, and it worked. And it was like, okay, that made sense because they were going to be overloaded. But outside of that, they were pretty straightforward. Like, all right, you kind of know what we're playing. We're just going to do it. And they're going to do it at a sound level. That might be the key for Lions in this game, because it'll speed up their play. It'll be less about like, oh, man, I hope we have the right call that throws off Stafford. Like, if you're expecting to live in that world, I think you're going to have problems against these guys. Just play fast. I don't think we need to blitz a ton. Focus on the run first with a big 4. Let those guys get after it and try to slow the game down by playing clean, because a win to me is not necessarily a sack, because I think if you're playing that game, you're going to get yourself into trouble more than not. A win feels like Stafford just throws it away, or he throws it contested, so he kind of pushes it away. Like something like that. That's a win. I talked about Ali McNeil, Graham Glasgow, Decker. We kind of touched on them too. Glasgow, hopefully he can get up to the second level for us. I think he's done well with that this year. That's been like one thing he's done well. So hopefully he can continue that. And Taylor Decker, right? Like, I know what Penei Sewell's can be, but I know he's going to push people around. But can Decker give me that juice in the run game? If Decker can give me that juice in the run game, I'm going to feel pretty good about the shot that we have. You know what I mean? So you're saying Amik got to stop blitzing on the double routes. Stop blitzing on the double routes? Oh, man, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean by, like, calling a blitz and then it's, I'm not exactly sure what you mean there, but I think that makes sense in the sense of don't need to overcomplicate it. Just come out something that's going to allow you to play really fast. And then situationally, we'll have tweaks. If it's 3rd down and long, again, we can go crazy. But outside of like, hey, if they're aligned this way, we're just going to check into this. That's the only, like, I think, craziness you need to have. They're going to score points, but you just have to play clean, because if you're not clean, you're going to get torched against these guys. And I think that's got to be the focus. You got 10 days to just play sound defense. You don't need to overcomplicate the Rams. Play sound defense. You'll give yourself a chance. And specifically, a lot of that may come from single high looks with potential inverts out of it, because you're going to have to play the run. So it's like, how crazy can you get if you have to play the run? You can't do a lot of games up front when you're getting dogged in the ground game, right? You can't do a lot of games in the back end if you need safety support. So that's how I would approach it. I think that's the best way to approach this team. When you're one-on-ones, that would help. We can get wins on the outside against their corners. Darius Williams is going to help them. Manuel Forbes has done some good things, but they're similar to last week. They're going to match a lot of things vertically. So seams will be there. Checkdowns will be there to the slot receiver side. You're going to have checkdowns that side if you want it. You can isolate their linebackers, feel good about that. The difference is I think the Rams are fairly complicated. Like they're not as basic defensively. And I'll show you one more graphic to kind of make that make sense. How's a sack? No, a sack is a win, but I don't think you want to approach it as we need sacks. Like from the sense of, hey, we're going to bring 6 so we can try to get a sack here. I think in that game, you're playing the wrong game with the Rams. As of now, I think that's playing the wrong games. I think you're putting yourself at a bad situation against these guys because they're too clean. I think they're just too clean and too sound offensively for you to think that battle is going to go in your favor enough for it to make sense. Like it has to get there enough. Like the Cowboys last week, they got aggressive enough where it made sense. I don't know that you get that against the Rams. And maybe that's not the approach Calvin takes. Maybe he takes that approach. But I think that's the game. Like obviously a sack's a win, but I think you're very happy if you force them to throw an incomplete pass. You are incredibly happy if it's 2nd and 10. The plays that I've watched of this team, if you get them to 2nd and 10, it feels incredible. It's like, I'm shocked they're here. I'm shocked it's 2nd and 10. It's unbelievable watching this team play 2nd and 10 football. It just doesn't happen. It's insane. They're never backed up. And if we go right here, like I'll show you just like one more thing just to kind of put it together of this Rams offense. And this is kind of the same graphic, just so a good representation of what I'm talking about. Coverages ran, right, by down. And then on the right is the yardage that the Rams picked up on those plays. And you can see how many 2nd and long plays I have listed here, right? Not many. And even in those, they're big chunk plays, but there's an interception on a 2nd and long. There's a 4-yard gain on a 2nd and long. So it's like a win for you isn't you have to make it 2nd and 16. A win for you is you make it 2nd and 10. I think you got a shot. You got a shot to make a play at that point because now you can start to immediately fizzle out the idea of, all right, we know they can run the ball here. Not completely, but you get close. I think that's key because on 1st down, they are ridiculous. I mean, it's insane how consistent this team is. 32 yards, 7, 5, 4, 9, 32, 5, incomplete pass, 4, 20, 28, incomplete pass, 15, incomplete, 27, 10, 7, 1, 18, 28, 10, and that's 2nd down. It's insane how consistent they were. It's ridiculous, man. And I got some little notes on the bottom there. I'm reading on that right side of the O-line. That's why I think Aleem's going to be over there. And then I'll flip it over to the Rams defense real quick, just to kind of give the flip side. They're pretty good, man. But you can see there is a little bit more, I think, creativity with what they'll do. But a lot of it still comes down to they play a lot of zone. They match a pretty good amount in zone coverage, too. Like, that's kind of the biggest thing. And there's plenty of blitzing, too. Plenty of matching, plenty of blitzing from this team. That's probably the bigger wrinkle that I've seen. A lot of times it's a 5-man rush. Typically, it's not like a 6-man rush. I think most of it's been a 5-man rush. You don't get a lot much more than that. And then on short yardage, I think they disguise a little bit more. They do kind of roll coverage a little bit on short yardage to try to take away underneath quick throws just by your alignment. So it's like I think it helps them because a lot of teams will come out like 3rd and 2 and it'll be like, hey man, if we just come in heavy package play, actually get to the flat. And it's like, they don't give you that because they're kind of expecting that. So they'll actually give you a lot of the 2nd level stuff, but it's 3rd and short. So you're not expecting them to go there anyway. So I think it's smart. It's smart stuff. But I do like though as a whole, I like going at their linebackers. I really do. I like attacking their linebackers. Because again, they're not going to carry in coverage very often. So it tends to lead them to playing a little bit flatter in coverage. And it tends to open up that 2nd level. So it's like, where do you find that? You know what I mean? Like, can you find that with Shane? Can you find that with Gibbs? You know what I mean? Because there's going to be attention to Gibbs underneath. So who can open that level for you is going to be the challenge. But it's going to be there as an opening. It's going to be some tight windows, but it's going to be there as an opening. And then you can see the run success. I mean, the run defense is crazy. Like those results are 0 yards, 2 yards, 6 yards, 2 yards, 0 yards, 1 yard, 3 yards, 0 yard, 4 yards, 0 yard, 8 yards, 6 yard. Got to get to their backers. When they have success, get up to backer. Now, I will say that counter pull that says 0, it's worth mentioning. That run should have popped. They absolutely ran over Braden Fisk, and it was going to go because they got up to their backers. Maybe another lead back again this game. Maybe another fullback to get to the linebacker. Because if you can get hands on the linebackers, you can pop, and that's where explosives will come from. If you can just get hands on their linebackers. So I do think Monty could do that because they're not huge at corner. I think Gibbs could do it too. But Monty, I think, tends to be a little bit more of their gap scheme guy. It would make sense to do that if you can pull some runs and just get – because, again, they're not the most girthy up front, so they're going to get upfield. But if you can just wall off enough, you can give yourself a chance to get to those backers, and then you're going to have rushing success. But teams just haven't done it and found it consistently. We'll have to do that. Hopefully we can. I don't know. We might have to be just more of a pass early team, which I'm cool with too. I think Avonte healthier is better than Brandon Bandico safety. I hope you're right. I mean, Avonte was a dog though. Like we ain't, we all over that. He was a dog. Forbes played, I thought, a lot better last week. He had a rough one against Carolina, and some of that's their coverage, right? If you play a lot of cover 3, you're putting them on an island all the time. So, they give cushion, they put themselves on an island, they allow themselves to get beat. But Forbes made some good plays too. I think the thing with Forbes is He's very athletic and he's long. So if you put the ball in the air near him, he covers multiple people. He's good for zone because he can cover a lot of ground. But individually, one-on-one, if you can isolate him, you can separate from him. It's just that he covers a lot of ground in space. But with that, nobody beat the Rams about timing. Corners have to bump every receiver, and alignment have to somewhat pressure Stafford. Hopefully, we can. If we could throw the timing off, we could disable it. Well, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. And maybe those 4 get through if you can slow them down a little bit, right? Like I'm with it. It's gonna be hard to press Devontae, right? Because after last week, DJ Reed looked awful pressing CeeDee Lamb. But yeah, I mean, look, if we could do it. And I think Rocky Sim played well enough where you'd feel pretty good getting him rotated in again. So I like that idea. I think that makes some sense. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. I appreciate y'all joining. We will be back with a preview. This is just kind of the quick glimpse. If you're just joining, we did the playoff picture look. We did the participation report. We'll get another one today. But I got to head out of here. I appreciate you joining, man. Look, we dropped a video on Dose of Draft. You want to check that out? We got another one coming. We're doing an edge rusher from Oregon next. Excited on that one. That's a good one. His name was like Mateo or something. That's a fun one. So that'll be out soon. Outside of that, though, have a great rest of your Thursday. Enjoy Thursday Night Football if I don't see you again before then. And I'm out of here, man. Shout out to Prosper, Steven, Mac, for popping in the building, man. I'll see y'all soon. Brandy, come on, man. All right, I got to get out of here, though. I appreciate y'all joining, man. See y'all soon.